So we are going to analyze this interview and the Shay Shay podcast of Kamala Harris. We have analyzed quite some appearances of Kamala. This is a bit different because, she is in her medium. It's going to be 1 hour long. I am not going to show you 1 hour. You already know more or less what is the reference. If she is got a 20-minute interview, then it's 1 hour of body language analysis. I am not going to do that. It's not worth by this point. We already know so many things, but there are things that she said here. We're gonna see just a few clips so you can see the actual contradictions and how Democrats and Kamala's voters are voting for a walking contradiction. And that's why they cannot answer any sort of question about her policies or about anything that comes out of her mouth, even in the same interview. So let's start with this clip. Kamala, who cast the tie-breaking vote to hire 87,000 new IRS agents, laments that small businesses can't afford to hire a bunch of accountants and a bunch of lawyers. Yeah, this is happening.
You know why, Shannon? Small businesses can't afford to hire a bunch of accountants.
Yeah, they can't help.
And a bunch of lawyers. But that shouldn't be the reason they fail, because they didn't fill out the form properly.
Yeah, it's not because they fill the form properly. It's because, you are hunting these businesses to try to make up for the vast debt that the country has been going into, and the jump that it did, like in the past 2 weeks, has been massive. I think it's at 35 or 36 trillion, and it adds 1 trillion every few weeks. Something that is just
form
massive.
Properly,
Right?
Yes. So my approach is really understanding the culture, understanding the needs.
You see that she begins to talk about taxes and then switches to words like culture and needs. Taxes is not about culture and needs. Taxes is hard numbers. How you are going to help with hard numbers? You don't talk about culture unless you say, of course, that she wants to appeal the fact that, black men are oppressed in such and such. They are disadvantaged in such and such ways, which can be insulting in the way that she says.
And then trying to fix problems. I love fixing problems.
She loves fixing problems. Well, I guess that she hasn't loved her own administration that much. Next clip. Sharpe, is Medicare for all a priority for you? No. This is something that is important. We haven't spoken about this in detail. And I see rather a handful of people on X, my X account, when I ask them who are they voting for, and they say, I'm voting for Kamala because I care about my health. And, I guess that this was important. This is an important topic for you if you're watching right now.
Is Medicare for all a priority for you?
What is a priority for me is making sure that access to health care is a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
That's
okay. So, what? Wait a second. What did she say? Let me go back. I didn't.
What is a priority for me is making sure that access to health care is a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it.
Okay, so everybody should have healthcare, right? She says that no, it is not a priority, but then she says the opposite. This is so confusing, Kamala. That's what I tell you. This is, if you are going to vote for Kamala, you go ahead, you have the right to do so, but you need to know what you're voting for. Next clip. Kamala just claimed that President Trump will take away the First Amendment and Second Amendment, that Trump is going to take the First and Second Amendment. Her administration stands for people who criticize their COVID policies. She's on camera multiple times saying she wants gun confiscation. Yeah, that is a joke. Let's take a look at her body language, because why not?
Unreasonable search and seizure. Your Fifth Amendment right. Mm-hmm. Your Sixth Amendment right to an attorney.
Well, a lot of rights going to be gone. The First Amendment.
But the First Amendment, the Second Amendment.
Yes.
Look, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. I don't believe we should be taking anybody's guns away. He wants to terminate the Constitution of the United States.
She's starting to talk like Biden. She's starting to talk like Biden. That last part. Yeah, it's the Biden touch. The Biden touch what sounded.
Anybody's
weird.
guns away. He wants to terminate the Constitution of the United States.
Why do you talk like that? Why do you rush your words? I have to mute. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that, Cindy B. It's something that we have to go through to understand the level of gaslighting that the American public has been subjected to. That's why, in many ways, I have friends. Today I found out about a couple of friends that are voting for Kamala Harris. And I don't have much contact with them. But then I was a bit disheartened, and I said, they are not dumb. I don't think they are dumb. I think they are misinformed. Who can blame with the amount of propaganda and actual misinformation that we are dealing with here, and all the hoaxes that have been pushed about Donald Trump, that he's going to terminate the Constitution, has never been said, that has never happened. They are trying to push the 2025 agenda that Trump has said that he has nothing to do with it. The people in charge of the 2025 agenda, they have said that Trump has nothing to do with it, and they have supported Kamala Harris for president. You cannot make this up. But this is the reality, the actual reality that we need to address, and the truth, and what's going on. And so many people are missing out on that. And it's sad, because no, it's not that people are stupid or they are crazy. So many people are just misinformed. Kamala calls for mass amnesty, her pathway to citizenship, then calls for strengthening what we need to do in terms of illegal entry in between ports of entry. But get your act together, Kamala.
My point is, we got to strengthen the border, and we need to have an immigration system that is fair and humane and strong in terms of making sure that people have to earn citizenship. They have to work hard to get it.
Yeah, but that is the issue. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with people earning citizenship in a country. Sometimes it can happen. Maybe you enter a country illegally, but you get your act together and you begin working, and you you regularize yourself. I don't know what is the word. Maybe you begin working hard to begin paying your taxes, and you begin a lawful person. It can happen. I would not discard the fact that it can happen. But Kamala never says anything about the criminals, about deporting the criminals. Never, ever says that. And that is what worries me. Like, she never considers it. And you remember that question that Tim Walz avoided to answer that question at the debate.
My plan includes also strengthening what we need to do in terms of, illegal entry in between ports of entry.
Yeah, okay, it's strengthening. She uses that word strengthening, but the word strengthening is meaningless in this case, because the word should be stopping, closing the border, and starting by deporting the criminals. She never says any of those words. She never says that she's going to close the border. She's going to leave the border open. She's not going to do anything about the criminals. She only goes back. I was a prosecutor. All right. We already know that you were a prosecutor. But what are you going to do about the criminals, the illegal alien criminals that are inside the United States? No answer about that. That's what I want to tell you. I want to show you how someone can avoid a question so many times, and you realize that they don't want to answer the question because they don't want you to confirm or deny. They don't want to confirm or deny the actual policies about that. Kamala straight up lying desperately claims that President Trump would force people to work overtime without pay. What? In fact, President Trump will end taxes on overtime pay.
But what he would do, that is about eliminating or reducing the ability of corporations to be required to pay overtime pay.
So you could work, and the corporations wouldn't have to pay you for it.
For overtime.
Who worked for free?
Sharpe, of course, Sharpe is not pushing back at all. When did he say that? Where's the? It's not gonna happen. This is less than a softball interview. This is a boring snooze fest. His suit is so tight. How did he get into it? That would be more interesting. You know, Vaseline maybe would be the way to go with that. Maybe Vaseline helps.
Just wouldn't have to pay you for it.
For overtime.
Who worked for free?
That's right. And overtime means you are actually working a longer day, which means you are more tired.
Right.
Which means it requires more exertion. That's why we.
Oh my God! Yeah, she's explained that if you work overtime, you will be more tired. That is so insightful. I don't know. I think I need to create a note for that, because that is an instant quote. This legendary. I never would have thought about that.
Which means it requires more exertion. That's why we have overtime pay, so you don't take advantage of workers.
Yeah, you're absolutely making all that up. Kamala just claimed Trump will terminate the Second Amendment. Oh, okay, this is something that we already saw. This is a clip that I repeated. But this was also from Trump War Room. This is what I tell you. This was a 1 hour interview. And over that 1 hour, she said basically the same topic or the same talking point twice with just minutes of difference. Like, it's not like she's reinforcing the topic. It's like she's trying to fill in the time of the 1 hour interview.
Being able to see what is possible and not be burdened by other people's limited ability to see the same. You cannot ever be burdened by other people's limited ability to understand who you are.
Yep. It's the same. It's the same. And Sharpe, well, I don't know. He's not even
like,
trying.
Don't let their limited ability burden you about your own ability.
She talks a lot about limited ability and a burden. I guess that limited ability and a burden is part of her campaign message. Who knows? Inflation, gas prices are extremely high. Groceries are extremely high. This rent, I used to go up $40 a year. Now it's $400. I'm glad you raised that. Groceries, yes, the prices are too high. You know it. I know it. So, who's to blame? Who's to blame, Kamala?
Would you want to touch on some specific things you would like to do to keep it, because the economy seems to be heading in the right direction, but the inflation, gas prices are extremely high. Groceries are extremely high. This rent, it used to be when I was renting.
That is important. You remember that we talk about that Axios article that said, no, Americans are just making that up. That is not happening. That prices are not. You are wrong. You are just making those bills that you have trouble paying at the end of the month. No, that is not happening. You're making that up. You're just wrong about the reality that you're seeing. We know more about your financial reality.
They moved the rent up $40 a year. Now they're moving it up $400.
So let's talk about that. I'm glad you raised that. So, for example, groceries, yes, the prices are still too high. You know it, I know it.
Yeah. And who's to blame? Who's to blame for that? Voters trust President Trump more on the economy. What can you tell the voters? And let's say what she is.
Polls suggest that voters trust President Trump, former President Trump, more on the economy. What can you tell the voters, our viewing audience, our listening audience, that if you were to become president, wow, Madam VP Kamala Harris will be much better on the economy than what President Trump was?
Let's say, will she mention the Nobel laureates, the economists? Oh, okay, that screenshot is gonna be, maybe that screenshot will be when I republish this as a standalone video. I would use this screenshot.
Well, so I'm really glad you brought that up, Shannon. So first of all, let's clear up certain myths.
Okay.
You know those checks that went out?
Yes, those stimmies,
Right. Right.
stimulus check.
Yeah, I know. Well, right. Yes. Yes.
We got to be for stimulus, but
Oh my God! I'm glad I did not check this whole interview. My brain would be fried by this point. I can withstand an interview like the Brett Baier Fox News interview, and that one was 24 minutes of no holds barred questions, like actual questions, and re-questioning and setting her up with her own words and her own policies. This is not worth it. This is okay. I'm trying to be fair.
they call them stimmies. Okay.
This is like a conversation, like the Joe Rogan conversation, but in this case, Kamala is so shallow in what she says, in what she addresses, that she ends up not answering anything at all. This is the last clip. I'm not going to torture you beyond this. No disgusting lie is beneath a hack like Kamala, who claims President Trump called service members uncourageous and cowards, suckers, and losers. We already know that this is a debunked hoax, but she doesn't have anything left.
He talks about military service members as being uncourageous, as being cowards, suckers, and losers.
Yeah, that's all that she got left. That's all that Kamala has left. And sadly, that's what people are going with. We're voting for her. But again, I just showed you these clips, only clips, so you can, let's see, check for yourself that you did not miss much by not watching that entire podcast. So it was 1 hour. Imagine 1 hour of your life. So many things that you could be doing. I understand that you could be using headphones to listen to it, but it's not worth it, especially when the laughter and her voice can get on your nerves. I don't want you to stress, but I would like to know what you think about this in the comments. Remember to download my 100 body language tips in the description of this video, not only to read other people's body language, but to control your own body language, and be subscribed to my email list, and we can keep in touch that way.